When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
This podcast contains adult themes and language, and some of the things that we discuss may be disturbing to some listeners. In this podcast, we discuss sexual assault, torture, race, and murder. Listener discretion is advised. Please take care of yourself.
So now let's get into the early life of Willie Cory Godbolt. Hit it, Beth.
Willie Cory Godbolt was born on May 1st, 1982. His family and friends called him Corey. He had at least 3 siblings, a sister and 2 brothers. He may have had more, but those are the only ones that I read about. His parents separated prior to his birth, and his father married the woman that he left his mother for.
Part of me wondered if his father, his father obviously met at one point another woman and had another family, but if he had more outside children, because it's not, Black people are not a monolith, but I come from a Venn diagram of diasporic Black communities worldwide, and outside children is not unusual. So
now, what's outside children like?
Outside children are when your daddy has kids by other women. Yeah,
okay.
Sometimes
you
know who they
something.
are. Yeah, sometimes
gotcha.
you don't. But
right, it's possible.
It's just it happens. I'm sure it happens in white communities, but I'm not white, so I don't know. Anyway, it has been reported that when Godbolt was a young man, he experienced some sort of sexual abuse, but we were unable to find out exactly what that was.
On November 15th, 1999, when Corey was 17, his stepmother shot and killed his father, a police officer who had been violent towards her after she tried to leave him. She accused him of domestic violence, but the charges were dropped. That night in November, she shot him using his own police revolver, and then she pleaded guilty to manslaughter and burglary.
And she did go to prison for some time.
Okay.
And so that means that he didn't have his mother around for a period of time.
It's his stepmother.
His stepmother.
Right.
That's right. Thank you. So Godbolt began dating a woman named Sheena May around the year 2000. In the year 2000. And the couple married in about 2010, and they had 2 children, Micaiah and Corey, who they nicknamed Bubble and Buddy. That's beautiful. So cute.
It's cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
According to Sheena, Godbolt was physically abusive to her throughout their marriage, resulting in at least 1 trip to the hospital. Their daughter, Micaiah, corroborated this later in court testimony, stating that she saw her father hit her mother numerous times. She said that he was physically abusive towards her as well.
In 2005, Godbolt was charged with armed robbery and aggravated assault after he allegedly struck a man with a pistol and took his wallet, jewelry, and cash outside a Boguachito residence.
In 2013, he was charged with simple assault. In 2015, he was arrested for disorderly conduct / breach of peace and failure to comply with a request by a Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. That year, he was also arrested for driving with a suspended license, speeding, and no proof of insurance.
I mean, even if you were like somebody who got into this kind of trouble and wanted to pay all the fines associated with all these crimes, right? And all the time away from work, etc. Like, it's a losing game. I mean, the charges just keep piling up.
Right. Yeah.
So Godbolt was cited by police multiple times for making threats or assaulting his own family members and others. In November of 2015, Godbolt was convicted of sending death threats to his in-laws. They pressed charges against him multiple times, and in 2016, he was arrested for contempt of justice court and simple assault.
Also in 2016, while Micaiah was spending the night at her grandparents, Vincent and Barbara Mitchell's, in Boca Chica, a male cousin touched her inappropriately. Vincent witnessed the event and removed the cousin immediately.
So Godbolt wanted to press charges against the cousin and against Barbara and Vincent for failure to prevent it, but Sheena refused. Godbolt later had a discussion with the cousin about the incident, after which the cousin was permitted to fraternize with the family and Micaiah, and the issue was never raised again. And how often have we seen that happen in families?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then it blows up at some event where there's alcohol involved or
right.
something.
Yeah.
If tempers flare, and well, it never goes well. That's why we shouldn't sweep things under the rug. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So let's get into the timeline. What, Beth?
In the spring of 2017, Godbolt and Sheena separated. Sheena took their 2 children to stay with her mother and stepfather, Barbara and Vincent Mitchell, in Boca Chica, a small community with a population of less than 500 people.
Like we said.
Yep.
And according to Micaiah, she was staying with her father on May 26th, 2017, when she saw guns in his car and on his bed, which was unusual. The next day, on May 27th, she saw her father watching quote-unquote gun videos showing how to shoot guns and how to reload them. Dad?
Yeah,
my dad's gone crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that Eminem song?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Later that same day, Goldbot told his 2 children that, quote, he would die or kill before he let them stay with anybody else, unquote. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Godbolt dropped Micaiah and Corey off at their grandparents' house later that afternoon.
So something's a brewing.
Yeah.
And it was Saturday, and it was Memorial Day weekend. So their grandparents, Vincent and Barbara Mitchell, were hosting a family barbecue. Ooh, a cookout. Oh, I'm wishing we knew what was on the menu. Anyway, present were Sheena, Micaiah, and Corey, Sheena's sister Tokara May, and her children, Barbara's sister Brenda May, and a few other people. Barbara Mitchell was 4 days past a triple bypass heart surgery and was resting on the couch.
I guess I should say that Micaiah and Corey Jr. So it wasn't
yeah,
Godbolt.
It wasn't the dad.
his
yeah,
son.
it was his son,
yeah.
who was 11. Is that right? How old was he?
I'm not sure how old he was at this time.
Oh, okay.
Not sure. Later in the evening, Godbolt texted Sheena and told her that he was coming back to pick up the children. In the text exchange, Godbolt expressed how much he loved his family and how he wanted it to remain intact.
Sheena responded that she no longer wanted to be with Godbolt because he had hurt her. She told him that she would call the police if he came back to the house. Despite this warning, Godbolt returned to pick up his children.
When her sister told her that Godbolt had arrived and was outside the home, Sheena sent her 2 children to stay in a back bedroom and called 911. Godbolt walked in through the back door uninvited and came through the kitchen, telling Sheena's mother, quote, it was time for them to listen, unquote. He then got into an argument with Sheena and her parents.
Listen to what? You scream and shout?
Yeah. And be an asshole?
Yeah. So the initial 911 call seemed run-of-the-mill when it came in at about 11:30 Saturday night. Lincoln County Sheriff's Deputy William Durr was the first to respond, with a second officer, Deputy Timothy Keys, following a few minutes behind.
36-year-old Deputy Durr was married and had an 11-year-old son. Before Durr became a police officer, he was involved with youth groups and worked as a mental health technician. He also served as a youth minister for several churches. He enjoyed puppetry and said that he loved making children smile with puppets. He did shows at children's churches, elementary schools, and daycares.
So I think this is unusual for us to know this much about a police officer's qualifications.
Yeah.
And I know he is a victim in the case. I also wanted to point out how, as far as law enforcement being equipped enough to handle domestic disputes and intimate partner violence situations, it sounds like this guy, Deputy Durr's, got all the right stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Which makes it even more devastating.
Yeah.
So Deputy Durr asked Godbolt to leave, and Godbolt looked as if he were about to comply. But then he reached into his back pocket and pulled out a hidden .40 caliber handgun and shot Deputy Durr in the face, killing him. I don't know if it's still true, but at that time, Deputy Durr was the only Lincoln County Sheriff's deputy ever killed in the line of duty. Wow.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, there are so many amazing movies out right now.
Yeah.
Civil War, Godzilla versus King Kong, Monkey Man, Dune Part 2. Can I get a what, Beth? Deadpool versus Wolverine is also coming out this summer.
Oh, that looks amazing.
I know. And Kingdom of Planet of the Apes. I just can't wait.
And don't forget Furiosa.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So many great movies to see. And the best place to experience them is in the theater.
That is the truth. And no lies detected. You can't handle the truth. Now, experience is the best way to put this whole movie thing. I mean, the memorable moments, the getting lost in the stories, the popcorn, the snacks, the drinks, the comfy seats, the company. It is an experience, and a magical one at that.
I couldn't agree more. I love going to the movies.
Yeah.
And there's something so special about movies and seeing a film in the theater.
Yeah.
It doesn't compare to anything else, really.
Yeah. Again, no lies. And listen close, Fruit Loops, because we have an offer from Regal Unlimited that you cannot refuse. We're going to make them an offer that they can't refuse. Regal Cinemas.
That's right. Regal Unlimited is an all-you-can-watch movie subscription pass that pays for itself in just 2 visits.
Did you say it pays for itself? Oh my gosh, tell me more.
Yeah,
Tell me more.
You can see any standard 2D movie anytime without any blockout dates or restrictions. And if you want to see a movie in a premium format like 4DX, IMAX, RPX, or ScreenX, your Regal Unlimited membership gets you into those premium experiences at a reduced cost.
With Regal Unlimited, you won't just save money on tickets. You'll also save on snacks.
Woo.
Members get 10% off all non-alcoholic concessions items.
So if you're planning to see 2 movies this month, you need to join Regal Unlimited. Sign up now in the Regal app or on regmovies.com/unlimited. Use promo code FLOOPSREG, that's FLOOPSREG, to let them know that Beth and Wendy sent you.
Again, go to the Regal app or on regmovies.com/unlimited and use promo code FLOOPSREG.
Thanks, Regal Cinemas, for sponsoring the show.
Yay!
So this was a really unusual situation, I would say.
For the community. It's a small community. Everybody knows everybody. Disputes don't need to be solved like this when we know each other, right? Like, if I know you like that, I don't need any guns to work it out with you in my head.
So Deputy Durr fell to the ground and everyone else scattered. Godbolt began to shoot at the other family members in the house, killing 3 more people. Sheena's 56-year-old mother, Barbara Mitchell, Barbara's daughter and Sheena's sister, Takara May, 35, and Barbara's sister, Brenda May, 55. Sheena escaped through a window with her 2 children.
Deputy Timothy Keyes, a close friend of Durr's, had just arrived on the scene when he heard the shots. By the time he approached the home, Godbolt was waiting, now with a rifle. He fired on Keyes, but after Keyes fired back at him, Godbolt retreated into the home.
While Keyes was retreating back to his squad car, he lost sight of Godbolt. Godbolt fled the home on foot and ran into the surrounding woods. Believing that Godbolt was still inside the home, the scene was treated as having, quote, an armed, barricaded subject, unquote. After a few hours on the scene, however, the officers became aware that Godbolt was no longer there.
That evening, the Mitchell's neighbor, LaPetra Stafford, was at home cooking a meal to take to church the next day. Godbolt, whom she had known for years, knocked at her door. She opened the door. Godbolt pushed into the home with 2 assault rifles under his arm. Godbolt told her, quote, "I done fucked up. I done shot the police," unquote.
He told her he killed a deputy and demanded that she take him for a drive. La Pietra's 3 children were asleep in bed, so she tried to give him her keys to take her car, but he demanded that she drive and promised not to hurt her.
La Pietra drove Godbolt to several places as he sat behind her with his guns, and she feared for her life. But she also pleaded with him to give himself up. She drove Godbolt from Bogachita to another small town, Magnolia, and back again.
When Godbolt was in her car, he used her phone to call his sister, Shelley. Godbolt told her, quote, "Baby girl, I fucked up. I shot an officer and Faye and Brenda," unquote, referring to his mother-in-law, Barbara Mitchell, and her sister, Brenda May. He asked Shelley to get in touch with one of their cousins, who is also a sheriff's deputy.
I also have talked about this on the show before, how it's Black people's, and again, Black people are not a monolith, but often the instinct is not to call law enforcement first,
No,
right?
they're
to
calling
call
their
everybody
family
else.
members.
Yeah, family members. So Godbolt told that deputy that he was still in the house in Bogachita, even though at the time he was sitting in La Pietra's vehicle behind a hotel. After the call ended, Godbolt told La Pietra that he had time because, quote, "They think I'm in the house," unquote.
At his direction, La Pietra then drove Godbolt to the home of Marvin Brumfield, one of his longtime friends. Godbolt, La Pietra, and Marvin sat down and talked for a while. Godbolt spoke about how he was tired of people interfering in his marriage. Marvin also tried to get Godbolt to surrender to the police.
Again, the family's like, "Come on, let's do the right thing here. Come on. So Godbolt, La Pietra, and Marvin then got into La Pietra's car, and she thought he was going to turn himself in. Instead, he directed her to drive him to Sean and Tiffany Blackwell's home in Brookhaven. Tiffany Blackwell was Sheena's close friend, and Sean Blackwell was Godbolt's second cousin. Godbolt told La Pietra and Marvin that he wanted to talk to Sean.
The Blackwells had also been celebrating the Memorial Day holiday that day at a park in Brookhaven with friends and other family members. Later on in the day, Sean, Tiffany, and their 3 children, and several other friends and family members had returned to the Blackwell home to play games.
Doesn't it sound like just a fun Memorial
really nice
Day
day.
weekend,
Yeah.
a nice
Yeah.
day? That evening, Tiffany received a phone call from Sheena telling her what had happened and asking Tiffany to come pick her up. Sean and Tiffany, along with Tiffany's sister, Shayla Edwards, and their friend Kimberly Lilly, left immediately for the Mitchell house in Bogachita, leaving their children at home.
Caleb Edwards, 15, said he and some other young people were playing video games when a little after midnight, Godbolt burst into the Blackwell home. He had fired rounds into the door's lock until he successfully kicked in the door. Meanwhile, La Pietra took off in her vehicle and called 911.
Inside the house, Godbolt demanded to know where Sean and Tiffany were. Their son, Jordan Blackwell, 18, said they had gone to Bogachita. At that, Godbolt started shooting.
As the kids scrambled to hide inside the home, Jordan Blackwell used his own body to shield his cousin Caleb from the gunfire.
Oh.
Either shrapnel or a bullet grazed Caleb's head, but he survived. However, Caleb's 11-year-old brother, Austin Edwards, did not.
That hurt my heart. That is,
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. So Tiffany Blackwell rushed back home when she heard of the shootings to find her 18-year-old son, Jordan, and her 11-year-old nephew, Austin, dead. Godbolt messaged her, quote, "Payback, bitch. Fuck up my family. Now it's yours, ho," unquote. Oh my God.
I know. Yeah, horrible.
Ugh.
Like, how could you?
What a piece of basura.
Yeah,
Wow.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Godbolt then kidnapped one of the kids at the Blackwell house, 16-year-old Xavier Lilly, and forced the teenager to drive him around for the next 4 hours. During that time, Godbolt held up Henry and Alfred Bracey, stole their vehicle, then had Xavier drive it to his aunt's house, where he stole another vehicle.
Wow.
So he's changing cars so that they won't catch him.
Okay.
At least that's my read on it.
That's my read too, but did he forget he's in a town of less than 500
people.
They're going to know. They're going to know. They're going to know. What is he doing? Oh, that's so maddening. Because
Yeah.
that's another aspect of this. Like, he's thinking, I don't know what he's thinking, but like, everybody already knows. Everybody's going
Yeah.
to know, and you're going to get caught. So finally, Godbolt had Xavier drive him to the home of married couple Farrell and Sheila Burrage in Brookhaven. Once there, he then allowed Xavier to drive away. The Burrages were related to and close family friends of Godbolt and Sheena.
Farrell and Sheila Burrage, along with Sheila's sister Shonda May and Shonda's daughter, got home from the crime scene in Boga Chitto a little before 6 a.m. Shonda May had been at the Mitchells' barbecue, but had left to go to the store when she got a call that Godbolt had showed up at the house and then shot her family members.
The news.
She survived that one.
Yeah.
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 And then she comes home, and then this shit happens. Yeah.
Yeah. At the Burrage house in Brookhaven, Shonda was on the phone in the kitchen when she heard a knock at the door. "Who is it?" Farrell asked. "Me," came the answer. Shonda assumed it was her nephew. "Who's me?" Farrell asked. "Me," repeated the visitor. Farrell went to peek out the window to see who it was when Shonda heard the pop-pop of a gun firing.
The family scattered. As Godbolt walked into the home, Farrell was able to fire off 4 shots. One of them hit Godbolt in the arm. Godbolt then shot Farrell multiple times, killing him.
Godbolt then went to the bedroom where Sheila Burrage had locked herself in the bathroom. He blasted several shots at the locked door until he could kick it open. At that point, he shot Sheila multiple times, killing her as well.
Shonda was hiding in a closet. She could hear Godbolt walking around the house, and she was texting family members, begging for help. Godbolt finally left the house, running down the road on foot.
So this is a horrific
Horrifying,
scene.
yeah.
Absolutely horrifying and terrifying for the people who were enduring it. And now let's get into the investigation and the arrest. So a little before 7 a.m. on Sunday, May 28th, Godbolt was found standing on the side of East Lincoln Road in Brookhaven, unarmed and bleeding from the bullet fired by Farrell Burrage. He was arrested.
While sitting on the pavement with his hands handcuffed behind his back and his right arm bandaged, a local reporter asked Godbolt why he did it. He responded, quote, "Because I love my wife and I love my children," unquote. Okay, that's
not how love works.
No.
And do you know what's really weird? So, because in light of the demise of Orenthal James Simpson, I went back and watched that documentary. He said the same thing.
He said the same thing? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Back to the story. So he also said, Godbolt said, quote, "I was having a conversation with her stepdaddy and her mama and her, my wife, about taking my children home. Somebody called the officer, people that didn't even live at our house. That's what they do. They intervene. They cost him his life. I'm sorry," unquote.
Oh, jeez. Godbolt told a reporter that death is next, saying, quote, "My intentions was to have God kill me. I ran out of bullets. Suicide by cop was my intention. I ain't fit to live, not after what I've done, not in your eyes, not in nobody else's eyes. But God, he forgives you for everything," unquote. Fuck this guy.
Yeah. I'm going to get into it in my takes, but this guy is just... Oh, boy. So Godbolt was then transported to a local hospital to be treated for a gunshot wound to the arm. Aside from Deputy Durr, everyone else that was murdered was somehow related to him. So now let's get into the trial. What the what, Beth? What the what?
What the what? What the fuck?
What? What the fuck?
Godbolt was indicted on 12 counts, 4 counts of capital murder, 4 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of kidnapping, 1 count of attempted murder, and 1 count of armed robbery.
Godbolt's trial took place from February 15th to the 27th, and it took place in 2020, just before the lockdown.
Whoa, just before the pandemic.
Yeah. And because of pretrial publicity in South Mississippi, jury selection was conducted in North Mississippi's DeSoto County, 285 miles north of Lincoln County. The trial took place in Magnolia in Pike County, about 33 miles south of Brookhaven.
So that's crazy. So once they selected the jury, then the jurors had to go all the way down to Magnolia for the trial? That's nuts.
Yeah, completely. I would say, take me to jail, Judge. I can't go that far for jury duty.
Godbolt's defense was that he didn't want Micaiah to stay at the Mitchells because of the incident when she had been touched inappropriately by her cousin. His attorney alleged that he just snapped.
I hate that defense. So it was reported that when his 12-year-old daughter testified, he stared her down. Ooh.
So yeah, he cares so much about her.
Yeah, but gosh, what a brave little girl. What a shout out to that young queen.
For sure. 12 years old.
Yeah. Could not have been easy to do the right
not
thing
at all.
in this context. So I'm proud of her.
For mitigation evidence, the defense introduced the testimony of Godbolt's former teacher, his aunt, 2 of his siblings, Chris and Shelley, his pastor, and an expert clinical psychologist.
Through their testimony, the defense developed themes of 3 traumatic events that occurred in Godbolt's life. These events were the separation of his parents prior to his birth, and his father's subsequent remarriage, and his father's murder perpetrated by his stepmother, and an occurrence of sexual abuse that happened to Godbolt when he was a young man.
Godbolt addressed the jury with the judge's permission and spoke for 15 minutes in an effort to explain his side of the story. He said, quote, "What came from that night was not the fruit of my heart, but of my perception. I didn't have a plan," unquote.
He was found guilty on all 12 counts. During the sentencing, Godbolt spoke in court. He rambled on and on about how the devil made him do it, all kinds of other nonsense. He even went as far as to quote Jesus himself and said,
Jesus
quote,
Christ.
my Lord, why hast thou forsaken me?" And he used hast and he used thou.
Oh my God.
Unquote.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What a narcissist.
Yeah.
At which point a family member screamed and said, quote, "Cory, just shut up. Just stop," unquote.
I mean,
good for them.
Yes.
Yeah, just shut the fuck up, you asshole.
We don't need to hear anything else from you, sir.
Yeah. Jurors heard from the victim's relatives and the deputy's widow.
For each of his capital murder convictions, the jury sentenced Godbolt to death. For his other convictions, Godbolt was sentenced to 6 life sentences and 2 20-year terms.
The truth about the Haditha massacre has been covered up, but not anymore.
I know you know what happened.
They went into houses and killed women and children.
What are you thinking?
What a mess.
U.S. Marines murdered innocent civilians in cold blood.
And at the center of it all
is 25-year-old Sergeant Frank Wuderick.
And me. Murder in House 2. A new podcast from Crowd Network.
My name is Bill Huffman, and I am a former Cleveland news producer, and I am now the host of the podcast, Who Killed? I began the show focusing on the unsolved murder of Amy Mihaljevic, and now each week I explore a different case with a focus on some of the victims who don't get the attention they deserve. I have a deep catalog of over 225 episodes, so there is a guarantee there will be something for you. Who Killed is an evergreen podcast, killer podcasts, and slow burn media production. Subscribe today wherever you get your favorite shows.
So let's get into where are they now? Tell us, Beth.
Sheena divorced Godbolt, changed her and her 2 children's names, and moved to a community where no one knew them before.
Good.
Yeah.
Godbolt appealed and took his death penalty case all the way to the Mississippi Supreme Court. There, his public defenders argued that the conviction should be overturned due to bad evidence and that there should have been separate trials.
Separate trials for each murder?
For each murder and for each scene.
Oh my God.
Each crime scene. Can you imagine what that would have done to the community, to the victims? That would have been
ridiculous.
Awful.
Yeah. But on March 8th, 2024, so just this year, the Mississippi Supreme Court affirmed the 8 murder convictions and the death sentences. Godbolt is currently being housed at the Mississippi State Penitentiary in Parchman.
Yes. And by the way, people who don't know about Parchman, it's a horrendous detention facility.
I read that it's called Parchman Farm, so I'm assuming it has some history as a farm.
It used to be a plantation,
Yeah,
not a farm necessarily. A plantation.
I was imagining the forced labor of convicts.
Yeah. It was that was it, and it got so bad during the pandemic, like inmates were lighting their mattresses on fire to try to get medical attention.
Oh my God.
There's floods, there's rats, there's sickness. They can't
So
get
he's just where he should be.
He's not in a great place. Yeah. I mean, it's not like he is at the Club Med. So,
yeah.
So now let's get into what we think brought all this about in our takes. What are your thoughts, Beth?
Well, I mean, it goes without saying that he lost it.
He did, but that makes me so mad because men just get to lose it. And like, oops, I killed somebody. And it makes me so mad.
Also, okay, so he snapped. I can see somebody snapping and killing one person, but to go on this killing spree, that is a sustained... I mean, he didn't get caught until like 6 o'clock in the morning the next day, something like that. So
yeah, and he was running on foot, right?
Yeah, but he was switching cars and kidnapping people and driving all over the place. So I mean, I don't think you can say that he just snapped.
Yeah, I agree.
He lost it. Mm-hmm. He went on a rampage. Mm-hmm. What preceded that was, I think, his realization that Sheena was not ever coming back.
Yeah,
and he lost control. I mean, it was mentioned that his father was abusive.
Yeah.
I'm sure that had something to do with him being controlling and abusive too.
I agree. Yeah.
And it was the loss of control. Abusive men use abuse as a way to control their families, but it's a short-term solution. Eventually their family wants nothing to do with them. I mean, even if they do have control over their family and like where they go and what they do and stuff like that, their family isn't going to love them.
That's not how what love is supposed
works.
to.
No.
Yeah, love shouldn't be like scary or terrifying or
controlling.
Yeah. Great point, OG of True Crime. She does it again.
And I'm pretty sure that this guy is a narcissist. And it makes me sick.
Yeah.
This story made me really sick.
Yeah. So I thought of something today. It came to my mind when I heard somebody talking about the lead in the paint of housing structures.
Oh, wow.
Back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, 80s, if the place hadn't been redone, where mostly Black and brown people and children were raised at around the time Godbolt was a kid.
Up.
And so part of me wondered after hearing that, like, was it the lead poisoning that contributed to his even more toxic Black masculinity in particular? Because it was a sustained rage.
Like that.
Can lead do that? Yeah. Can
I don't
because
know.
I know lead affects cognition, right? It affects like it's your physical environment, but there's no amount of safe lead, right? Like it's all bad, and it fucks up your brain and your central nervous system, all things that we need to regulate our bodies and our emotions. And this is not an excuse or anything like that, but I thought it could be a partial explanation.
Okay, so I just Googled it. I Googled, what does lead do to a child's brain?
Mm-hmm.
And I got intellectual disability, behavior disorders, reduced IQ, reduced attention span, increased antisocial behavior, a bunch of other stuff. But I thought that was really interesting.
Thank you so much,
welcome.
Fruities. Let me know what you think, because environment is part of the context. And I wonder, but he also had siblings and they didn't kill anybody. So
true,
but just maybe it was a factor. Also, obviously, his motive was he didn't want to lose his family, but who's like, I don't want to lose my family. Aha!
I know
I'm going to kill everybody. Yeah, what? I don't understand. I don't understand. Love is not violent.
I think it's not. It wasn't love, but I think he was like, I'm going to lose my family. I can't do anything to stop it, so I'm going to fuck everything up.
Yeah.
I'm just going to kill people.
Just going to burn it all down. I'm going to burn it all down.
Yeah.
And then I think he also hoped that the police would kill him because, at the time, And still to this day, police do that.
Yeah.
They do that a lot.
That's
they kill
true.
1,300 people
I'm
a day.
surprised
So
they didn't.
I am too. I really am too, because he also killed a police officer.
A police officer, yeah.
So I'm
and
surprised.
a white police officer.
I know. This story has a lot of things that just really surprised me. And I also wanted to say, his stepmother said she shot his father because he was abusive towards her.
Right.
And obviously his childhood was pretty violent. There was a forensic psychologist or a clinical psychologist who testified at his trial that his stepmom shot and killed his dad, and that led him to be very, very angry, very, very resentful, especially towards women.
Okay.
And the loss of his family at the hands of this woman, i.e. his ex-partner, he just couldn't take it.
Right.
And I was also going to say, stepmoms don't just wake up one day and shoot dads. Like, this wasn't just a one time. This probably was violence going on for a long time. And then I also imagined that his parents, his family, grew up in the deep South, the segregated South. And imagine, okay, so this happened in 2017, but imagine the generation before him or the generation that came before him, right? His parents and his grandparents, those people who existed in the period of American chattel slavery and, the Civil War and the Black Codes and Jim Crow, that generational trauma doesn't go away if somebody doesn't take the choice or make the choice to say, it ends with me. This cycle of violence, this cycle of pain ends with me. And so I just, part of me was looking into this and thinking, man, what if he had just made a choice to do something different? Because he had kids, he had an opportunity, right, to do different and do better. And he didn't. He didn't.
Yeah.
It's toxic masculinity, I think, is also a factor here, but specifically Black toxic masculinity, because Black men, in my eyes, haven't really been allowed to be full Black men basically since the 60s.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to sound patronizing, but they haven't had the opportunity to do it right and do it well in the context of America for that long.
Yeah.
So that was just where my brain went. Let me know what you guys think. Beth, where can the people find us?
Our website is fruitloopspod.com, and we use Fruit Loops Pod for all of our social media.
This is a weekly podcast, and new episodes drop every Thursday. So until next time, look alive, y'all. It's crazy out there.
Something is creeping in, don't follow it down. Let me introduce you to Barry Clue, an authorised financial advisor from New Zealand and a very special kind of stain on humanity.
He was a very knowledgeable young guy.
He was a registered financial advisor.
Type of guy that was bending over backwards to help you.
Now, you could be forgiven for thinking that Barry sounds like a great guy, and you'd be right. Well, right up until the point when you're wrong.
It was all fictitious.
You stole from my son who has a disability.
Chris never knew. He died believing that we're all taken care of.
A psychopath is somebody who lacks empathy, acts impulsively. I think there's a strong case that Barry might be all of those things, actually.
To find out how Barry Clue stole over $15 million from 81 victims, subscribe to Clueless, The Long Con. That's Clueless, spelt Klooghless.
Is the pressure of your wedding day being perfect from sunrise to sunset weighing on your mind? Planning a wedding is stressful, but guess what? We are here to help. On the Bridechilla podcast, we celebrate love and help you plan your wedding day. We're all about keeping it real and having fun every step of the way. So whether you're just starting to plan or counting down the days, we're here to help you stay cool, calm, and collected. We have expert tips and amazing guests like wedding dress designer Haley Page. Let's get this party started and embrace your inner Bridechilla. Listen to Bridechilla wherever you get podcasts or visit us at thebridechilla.com.